Welcome Home, a podcast for veterans, about veterans by veterans, is a project of Willing Warriors and the Warrior Retreat at Bull Run.
Good morning. I'm your host, Larry Ziliox, Director of Culinary Services, here at the Warrior Retreat at Bull Run. And this week, our guest is Chris Beatty. He's co-founder, along with his amazing wife, Amanda, of Semper K9, which is a service dog organization that helps veterans get service dogs. They train them, and they find them, and they train them, and they place them with veterans. And I recently saw that he was on the Hill with his dog, and it was part of an initiative to try and get Congress to pass the SAVES Act, which is a 5-year pilot program that will be funded by the VA and at no cost to veterans, and it's money given to service dog organizations to fund a service dog for a veteran. I couldn't understand why this isn't a law already, but I believe it was put up once before and probably died in committee. But I asked him to come along and tell us all about the act itself and how veterans and listeners can help get it approved and get it into law. I will say that Chris and I have known each other for almost 15 years. We've been in this veteran service organization space, met a long time ago when Nova Vets would have their meetings at the Freedom Museum when it was at the Manassas Airport. So it was quite some time ago. But Semper K9 has always been a partner of ours when we had guests that wanted more information about whether a service dog would be appropriate or right for them. Chris would come out, or some of his people would come out with dogs and evaluate the warrior's situation and make recommendations. And so we've always valued that partnership, and they are really sets the gold standard for what a service dog organization should be all about. So, Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me, sir.
So if you would, just tell everybody a little bit about your military background as a Marine and why you joined the Marine Corps and not the Air Force.
Of course. Let me start off by saying thanks. I appreciate you for having me on. I love that you offer up this opportunity. I don't know why, as you said, that we haven't done this for years now. And not to steal some of his thunder later, I think this hopefully will open up a conversation. We can get a regular conversation going. We get some open discord in this discourse about the things that I ran into, issues I've ran into, my transition from military service to civilian life, and all the veterans our program have gone through the same thing. So thank you very much for having me on.
When did you join the Marine Corps?
So I was actually in a Marine Corps ROTC program in high school down in Georgia. My wife and I, in fact, at the end of the 4 years, I was the commander of the company, the whole program. My wife was the operations officer. So I was a cadet captain. She was a cadet first lieutenant. And we did that for 4 years. And I dipped in as soon as a little after I turned 17, was in a delayed entry program for a year. In fact, I got to go to Marine Corps Base Quantico with my classmates, got to go to the kennels on Quantico, got to put on the suit and got to catch a Belgian Malinois, put me on my face. It was the greatest experience of my life. I knew I went back to my recruiter, Sergeant Jordan. I hope if he's out there, I can eventually link back up with him. I'd love to show him and tell him how I've been. Hopefully he's out there. But, I fell in love. I got the bug, if you want. And went back to my recruiter, wanted to be a military police officer, wanted to have a military working dog, and he showed me the way, and I took the path that he laid out for me and got to do, did my first 4 years overseas and then in Washington, D.C., and then spent the second half of my career with the MEFs doing deployments. I went to Iraq went to Iraq 3 times, went to Israel once, traveled all over, got to do all kinds of things, and really got to immerse myself in all different branches of the military. In fact, you mentioned not joining the Air Force. I did a good portion of my schooling or my career.
Right. From the Air Force.
Yeah, with the Air Force. The Marine Corps, we offer specialized schools, but a lot of our Marines we do a lot of inter-service education.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of that, and getting out of the Marine Corps, the transition was difficult for most of us, especially 2009, 2012 period. I got out in the very beginning of 2009. They warned us of a recession, but I came out into not easy opportunities. So stumbled through some government contracts, did a lot of government work. I went to Afghanistan for a year, met some really good, veterans, met a lot of great service members and a lot of police officers, found out that the canine world is humongous. And so along the lines, my wife and I have 5 children now. Our youngest just turned 8. Our oldest just turned 21. He's his third. He's going towards the end of his first enlistment with the United States Army.
Yeah.
I love making the joke that I'm a Marine. That's why my son joined the Army. But my wife and I in 2014, we noticed that there was a huge gap in the service industry, especially the veteran service or industry, with providing proper, specially and well-trained service dogs to veterans that are disabled, veterans who are going through the disability or the Veterans Administration process, and more specifically, the secondary PTSD that the families were having. So my wife and I spent a year. I did an internship. We did a lot of planning, and we launched Semper K9 assistance dogs in 2014. And in almost 11 years now, we've produced over 130 service dogs. We've helped several hundred veteran families. We've got the benefit of creating a really good team, a really good process. And in the end, I love to be here because it took me 11 years to really realize that Semper K9 is very dominant in the service dog production industry. And sharing our mission is something we really need to do to ensure that the whole industry is doing good things, doing great things. And, in the end, the Semper K9's mission is to enhance the quality of life of disabled veterans and their families by providing a service dog or animal-related services for them free of charge. But in the end, we help veterans.
If you would, tell us about the SAVES Act and how it came about and what exactly it's going to do to help veterans get service dogs.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, I got the opportunity to partner, and we've been partnered with Purina Dog Chow for, I believe, 5 years almost now. And just to create a little bit of backstory and context, in 2016, we partnered with, I believe, originally 5 or 6 service dog providers across the country who are all doing relatively the same things, all 501c3 nonprofits who had been in the industry for at least, I believe, 3 years. We'd all produced, very, very good, very ethically trained, very, very functionally trained service dogs that had performed in practical, real-world situations with their disabled veterans, regardless of the type of disability they had. But there was that huge gap of mental health or, I believe the PTSD service dog or a mental health service dog, or we at Semper K9, we've coined and kind of specialized in what we call mental health mobility service dogs. So we created the first national training standards for service dogs. I think we finished it in 2017 or 18. We've revised it a number of times. It's very inclusive to any organization that's providing service dogs to veterans free of charge. With that, we also created an accreditation, and in the last 2 years, we've been able to offer continued education units. We've been doing an annual service dog conference every year for the last 9 years, even during COVID. Travels all over, but the last 3 years, it's been in St. Louis, Missouri, center of the country. Very great, very loving city too. Very, very open to what we need to do. But we've been partnered with Purina Dog Chow, and I believe the past 3 years at the Association of Service Dog Providers. And last year they took an organization up to Capitol Hill and did the same thing. Really, they were really interested in us really get some back, and let's bring some organizations, let's bring some success stories. These disabled veterans who transitioned from the military, stumbled through the VA process, and now are succeeding mainly because they worked with veteran service organizations like Semper K9 and these other organizations. But really, we took their treatment plan, created a veteran action plan, gave them some guidance and goals, gave them some, opportunities for success and achievement. And we took them up to DC. I think there was 4 teams of us that walked all over Capitol Hill, talked to each one of our state's representatives. I had already done my prior homework. We got all 6 signatures that I was even able to get. But for Virginia. But we went up there, we, advocated. We were trying to seem like an information dump, but we went up there and tried to educate the lawmakers on, hey, this is what the SAVES Act does. We are reallocating funds that are already there that veterans do not have access to because it's locked up behind regulation and bureaucracy. We found loopholes as an organization to work our way around so we can get these veterans access. But in the end, it's an insurance plan, but it's when the PAWS Act, the Puppies Awaiting Wounded Service Members Act, was passed, I believe in somewhere between 2016 and 2021. I know it went through several reiterations. The watered down version that did get passed, I hate to call it that, but the watered down version that did get passed didn't really do anything. In fact, from my interpretation of the context and the hands-on experience and the data I have been able to find, because they're not putting out any information for 3-4 years and somewhere around $20+ million they've spent on these programs to produce and provide service dogs, and I haven't seen any results. My organizations have been doing the same thing, or progressively getting better at our product and at our mission and the veteran success stories that we're producing. And our costs are going down, our efficiency is getting better, our proficiency as an association, as individual organizations within this association. And why can't the government, why are these other organizations, why is the bureaucracy, when they're trying to prove that we do it, they can't produce what we're doing? So we went out there, and talked to these lawmakers, these policymakers, and went through a little education, went through advocacy, and then showed them our success stories and showed them this is how we can evaluate, this is how we can implement this into almost any situation across the country, for any veteran getting out.
Yep. So, listeners, what the SAVES Act does is, once enacted, it gives the VA a 2-year period in which they can get this program up and running. And then they will allocate $10 million a year for 5 years once they initiate the program. And that will go towards a number of nonprofit organizations that support and train service dogs for veterans. And this is a pilot program. All we're looking to do here with the SAVES Act is create a pilot program so that at the end of it, they'll have enough data to say, yes, these service dogs made an impact on the lives of these veterans that had varying disabilities, and know whether or not, also too, is to create and accept a standard of training. And that has, for years, always been an issue, because there are some organizations out there, sadly, that create service dogs that aren't really very well trained. And so I think there's been a couple of reasons why the VA has been reluctant on this for a few reasons. One is because of that issue, there was no real universal national standard for setting training standards. And Chris's organization and a number of them have got together, and amongst them, they have created this standard. But it is not a national accredited standard. It's not something that every organization that wants to be a service dog organization has to be has to follow those guidelines, number one. So the VA was a little concerned that they may be paying for a product that wasn't really up to snuff. Two is what a lot of people don't understand is that when you have a service-connected disability and the VA identifies a medical device or a program or a service dog, the entire cost of that is covered by the VA. So for instance, because I have a hearing loss and I have these amazing Siemens hearing aids that are provided free of cost to me by the VA, when I need batteries, I call them and they send me batteries. When I need covers for them, they send it to me. It's all free. Everything associated with the treatment or a prosthetic, whatever, is covered by the VA. And I think they were a little concerned that if they got into the service dog business, that they'd be saddled with veterinarian bills, food, collars, everything like that. So I can understand where they were a little reluctant, but there's no reason why this pilot program can't get started. And Chris, where are we at with this legislation? Is it coming up for a vote, or does it need more sponsors? Is it going to die in committee? Where are we at with it?
The last numbers I heard, well, we were somewhere in the line of 50 Congress signatures, and then we had, I think, 20 to 30 something. Of course, that was prior to us being finished with what we were doing in Capitol Hill. 20 something House signatures, or well, I think they're called sponsors.
Yeah, sponsors and co-sponsors.
Yes. So I think we had enough ground. It really was whether it was going to get tabled again. Whether it was actually going to make it to committee, which I anticipate it will. The little kind of sidebar to that is at our annual conference, Commander Ben Bassett, who's managed the Wounded Warrior Service Dog program, and that was I couldn't give you probably the best way of explaining it, but from my perspective, it was, a very similar pilot program offering grants to organizations that were applying for these government funds for NGOs. And like you had mentioned, and I hate to call people out, but I think in this day and age, I think we have to. I'm going to call my own organization out if we're doing something inferior. If we're doing something less than ethical, or something that can't be reproduced, or something that's so difficult that it creates more problems for the client, the veteran, than what our goal is in the end. So what we've decided, what I gather from Commander Ben Bass's 2025 update was the program is out the door, that it's been proven enough, at least from, I hate to use the term, good enough for government, but it was proven enough for it to be pushed right into a pilot program straight under the Veterans Administration. So like you had mentioned, reallocation, I think it falls within the prosthetics department. We've on a workaround, there's been a lot of, say, regulation and organizations that have capitalized on, having their name plastered on VA stuff, and they don't produce service dogs for disabled veterans. So they have some kind of invisible leash. I hate to use the phrase, or the analogy, but they have this invisible leash on the government saying it has to be done a certain way, and their way hasn't even been proven by the industry. In fact, majority of the industry produces way more service dogs for way more veterans at a way more proficient and efficient method and cost. And these organizations are saying these service dogs should cost $45 and $55 and $65. And I'm like, I can produce 5 times the amount of dogs on it with, I'll say it, twice the success rate with half of the overhead, with scientific backing, with organizational, with other organizations using our standards, using our recommendations, going through our accreditation and our evaluation and implementation process, and they're producing better dogs. They're being able to help veterans that, like I said before, we specialize in what we call mental health mobility service dogs. We've been forced by regulation to smash all of our mental health with physical disabilities. We have to do workarounds to make sure all of our dogs can perform a mobility task, just so the veteran can get some help with their mental health, because the VA barely accepts mental health disabilities. In fact, I hate to point out to the world that mental health is under attack. Publicly, it's not good right now to be known. Hey, if you're a disabled veteran out there, then they're worried you're not gonna set a good example for people leaving the military, or what it's like to, volunteer to sacrifice yourself for your country and potentially give the ultimate price. And really, that's missed in the civilian world is the families. The only reason we're honestly successful out there is because we have family support. We have the community of veterans. We have community of the government. I hate to say that camaraderie that helps us. We got battle buddies everywhere that we can reach out to.
Yeah.
Beyond that, Facebook sharing, checking on the buddy stuff, we are actively trying to be involved as veteran service organizations like the Bull Run Warrior Retreat. How do you say it?
Warrior Retreat at Bull Run?
Well, I heard that before, and I've always said the Bull Run Warrior Retreat, but I think y'all, as a 10-year-old phrase, I think y'all evolved well beyond that. So.
Yeah. So for our listeners, what's the best way for them to help move this legislation along? Is it reach out to their Congress people and call the office and say, look, the SAVES Act, you got to pass it? What's the best way for them to help?
Yes, for sure. And I hate to give a civics lessons to listeners. I'm sure most of you are probably well versed in the process, especially if you're all veterans. You know that we have a chain of command. And really what I'm asking, all of the listeners, everybody out there, especially if you have a veteran family member, someone in your family who's struggling with the VA, who, all these things that are potentially, could be causing problems for them, reach out to these bureaucrats, these policymakers. They work for us. They have what's called a constituency representative, that as their main job is to listen to people and have meetings. And if you get on their calendar, get on their phone list, schedule a meeting with them and say, I really want to get behind this. I think this is really important for our community. I really want to, and we want to pass it up the chain, because that's really where we get word of mouth from society and citizens to the people making decisions.
So you make a really good point in that your representatives, your senators, they have an extensive staff, and they have aides that work on specific topics, and all of them have aides that focus on veteran affairs. And so what I see sometimes is that veterans get locked in on, I got to talk to my congressman, I got to talk to my senator, and that is hard to do. They are busy, and unless you got, you're willing to make sizable donations, you don't focus in on the congressperson. Talk to their aide. Set up a meeting with their aide. It's going to be a lot easier. Don't not get the message across because you're unable to speak to the senator or the congressman. Talk to their aides. Bring some other veterans with you once you set that appointment up, and go in there and tell them that the SAVE Act is important. And here's one thing that I think you should always point out is that as a pilot program, it's going to cost $10 million a year. And you can write down this figure. I'm going to give you this figure so everybody understands and can put it in context. $10 million a year is 0.000300769% of the VA's budget. So you don't even get to a number until you're 0.0000 in of 1%. So it is minuscule. There's absolutely no reason that this program can't be funded. You've got to reach out to the right people, and you've got to get in there and talk to their legislative aides who work on veteran affairs. Don't get bogged down thinking, well, I have to talk to the congressman or the senator. If not, it's not worth talking to anybody. Send a letter, make the calls, set up an appointment, go in.
And to piggyback off what you were saying, really we're talking, and I know we understand everybody's got busy lives and a lot of things going on. You don't necessarily have to, jump out and decide that you have to reach out and schedule a meeting with the constituency staff at, for your local representative, really we're asking, everyone out there to set up public conversations. Everybody's got social media these days, whether it be, visiting the social media, the Facebook pages, the Instagram, the X, the everything. I think everybody's kind of has visibility out there, whichever platform you're comfortable with. Reach out there and share with your friends, share something directly from that veteran service organization that you're directly working with. I'm trying to up our social media presence and, going to be launching our podcast as well as my personal podcast, Top Dog Unleashed, should be going live here in the next couple of weeks. We're going to start on, I believe we're actually going to start on Rumble and go, 30-minute raw format with another one of my veterans who has an Semper K9 Academy out in New Mexico, as well as he's been in podcasting, trekking through time for, I think, over a year now. He's a Marine veteran. Him and I spent a year in Afghanistan together, but just sharing what other veterans are doing. I love saying the statistic that 99.9% of businesses in America are small businesses. And if almost every community has a gap in it or is missing some kind of tradesman, some kind of service, some kind of product that is really necessary within a small community and just needs that person to fill that, and it will succeed. And I know that most people get bogged down in the world that they need to work for this giant company making millions and millions of dollars. But there's a lot of data out there that says you can live comfortably as a single individual for $70,000 in anywhere in the country. You and a family can live comfortably almost anywhere in the country and you can do that having your own small business, being successful, working for your family, hiring family members and friends and people you trust. There's a lot of benefit to having a small business and filling a need within your community.
So the other thing too there that's important is that having a service dog allows you to better integrate into the community. It allows you to function better in the community. You're not sitting in your house alone, trying to figure out what you're going to do. The other thing too is it's very rare or absolutely absent completely that veterans who have service dogs commit suicide. Very, very rare. If for no other reason that they don't want to leave the service dog, because that is their companion. And so service dogs help in a lot of different ways that you might not even think about, as far as not mobility, allowing veterans to get out of their house to work, and to lower the chance of veteran suicide. I will direct our listeners to an episode that we did in May with Ryan Woodruff. It was episode 109. Ryan Woodruff from Clear Path for Veterans, which is up in New York, and they have a phenomenal service dog program. And they are training for years, these service dogs for veterans. And it's costly. It's $40,000, $50,000 they put into it. They have a complete staff, a huge staff up there. And doesn't cost us, the veteran, a dime. And so those are the kind of Semper K9 and Clear Path for Veterans, Veterans Moving Forward. These are the organizations that they are service dog organizations that are really set the standard. And if you hear of a veteran who says, I'm going to get a service dog, but it's going to cost me money, right away, red flag. It shouldn't cost them anything. And, you can reach out to Semper K9, to Chris, hit their webpage and semperk9.org and say, what's the best way for me to get a service dog? And I don't pay for a service dog, please. There's no reason. There's plenty of organizations nationwide that are training good service dogs and will provide them at no cost. Now, there can be a wait period because you can't crank out a service dog in 2 months. But really, check out that episode 109, and go to the Semper K9 webpage, check it out, the resources, share the link with other veterans who you think might benefit from a service dog. If you're not sure, give them a call. And then please reach out to your congressperson about the SAVES Act. It's a pilot program. It's very little money, and we need to move this whole issue forward. And we're not going to get regular funding for service dogs for veterans until the SAVES Act goes through and the pilot program is completed. And so what we're looking at here, if that law got passed tomorrow, we're looking at not even implementing the first of the 5 years till 2028. And then it's not even over to where the VA will come back, and then they'll have to get additional funding for the actual program until well into 2033. So please, we're burning daylight here on this, and we really, really need to move it forward. So, Chris, what's the one thing as we kind of wrap up here? What's the one thing that you want our listeners to know about Semper K9 and the service dogs that you all provide?
Yeah, of course I appreciate it. I've been taking notes, and I've always say that it takes me about 90 minutes to really change someone's mind, or really get to the meat and potatoes of what all veteran service dog organizations do. But I'd like to really change a misconception that most society, that when a veteran leaves, or when a service member leaves the military, or someone leaves military service, or first responder and they're retiring, and that's the misconception of what a disability is. And so I've come up with, a different way of saying it, if you want, but a disability is not the inability to do something, or it's not the inability to have a job or keep a job or do work. A disability is rediscovering or relearning something about yourself, or how to do something, to make you, to get you back out there and working. So, the other side of what really I think you've probably talked about in your episodes that you've had, that especially that we've learned, the data, the stats, all the one thing that all these successful veteran service organizations all include is an immersion. They're using integration, and as well as they're using that buddy system. They're using, that family, the unity, and they're ensuring that there is longevity and sustainability to their model and their process, and bringing it all back together with that immersion, like you were saying, like you were mentioning, is, these organizations, they pride themselves, your community, they pride themselves, especially if you're a veteran family, in being able to help you out doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
We're only successful because we have clients who like our product, who like our services, who like, the community engagement, the immersion opportunities, the progression, the educational way. I hate to use the word treatment, but in the end, we benefit. We get big smiles on our faces. We get those proverbial pats on the back, because we see you succeed. And really, we're not going to even know you need help if you don't ask, if you don't make yourself known, if you're not willing to fill out an application, if you're not willing to make it known that, hey, here I am and I'd like to be better. I need a little help with my GI Bill. I need a little help with my VA application. I need a little help trying to, get to school or getting a car. I need a little help losing some weight. I need a little help getting to the VA. I need a little help. The list goes on. And
Yeah.
I can almost guarantee you there is a small business, there is a nonprofit out there that you are the client they are looking for. They are, so you've got to get active. Social media makes it really, really easy for us. And there are a ton of options, unlimited opportunities for veterans, someone who's not a veteran, a child of, really the entire world, could benefit from just reaching out to your neighbors and ask, hey, I have a problem. Can you offer me some advice or give me some insight on what solutions do I have available to me?
Yeah. Well, listen, thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. And listeners, go to the webpage, semperk9.org, check it out. There's a donate button there. Bang on that button. Give what you can and share that link, and definitely reach out to your representatives, your congressional representative or senator, or both, all of them, and say, please support the SAVES Act.
And if I can, I'd like to also, we're entering that season of giving, especially going this time. We've got a lot of holidays coming up. There's a lot of organizations doing fundraisers out there. There's a lot of things that they're also getting into. The hunting season, I work with another Marine dog handler. He has Focus on Your Abilities dog hunting trips, and there are a lot of organizations that offer similar services all over the country. FOIA, Focus on Your Abilities. There's the Military Working Dog Heritage Museum that is in the process of getting ready to take a truck out on the road, and showcase, some true American history, especially with an animal background, military working dogs. It's close, near and dear to my heart, spending 8 years as an active duty Marine, military working dog handler out there, working with tons of great Marines, great service members who are all out there in your community doing phenomenal things. And many of them could use a client like you, could use a donation, could use a share, could use some form of support, even if it's just sharing on their social media. But what we're really asking, come to our events, be involved in what our mission is.
Mm-hmm.
When you donate to a nonprofit, you're investing in the future success of that organization. You are potentially paying or assisting in paying a veteran's salary, letting them chase their dreams. You are potentially helping them and keeping them off of drugs, off of, unnecessary medications, outside of unnecessary and dangerous situation. You're keeping them working. You're giving them a mission, giving them something to do. And I promise you, from the bottom of my heart, I hate the fact that our industries are necessary, but I love the fact that I'm there to fill that need, just like you and your mission, and that every veteran who comes through and us helps is a life we've saved, is a person that we've helped. And, just them sharing their story with another person keeps the mission alive, keeps the gratitude. And that is our incentive to do a good job when we see you go out there and do a great job. That is our job well done for all the sacrifices that all of us put together. Because I promise you, to all the listeners out there, I know there's a veteran in your community that his business is struggling. I know for a fact there are organizations out there that would love, that are your donation, your one share, showing up to one of their events, you being involved in helping their mission or volunteer with them. That might be all it takes for them to become dominant in their field and, get rid of, those inferior products, those inferior organizations, and those toxic organizations and people that are doing it for selfish reasons.
Yeah. So get out there and really support veteran service organizations in your community, because they are the ones that help the veterans, and it always benefits your community. Well, listen, Chris, thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you very much. I could talk for hours, but I hope we get to talk more in the future. And by all means, reach out to me anytime. I promise I will move my schedule around to help a fellow veteran, help a fellow organization get it done.
Well, hopefully we'll have some good news, and we'll have you back when we have some really good news about the passage of the SAVES Act. Listeners, we'll have another episode next Monday morning at 0500. If you have any questions or suggestions, you can reach us at podcast@willingwarriors.org. We're on all the major podcast platforms, YouTube, and Wreaths Across America Radio. So until then, thanks for listening.
The Welcome Home podcast is brought to you by Willing Warriors, a nonprofit organization serving active duty service members and veterans since 2012. To learn more, please visit our webpage at willingwarriors.org.